Hello my crafty friends. Today I have a few more Christmas tree card ideas to share with you featuring the Wrapped in Plaid Suite. Now these are not just any Christmas tree cards, these are window cards with little Christmas trees that spin. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I will feature two different Christmas spinner card ideas, and I will share two different ways that you can create these spinner cards. Plus, I will also share some additional card ideas with you that you can make with the leftover scraps from creating these spinner cards. By the end of this video, you will have 4 different Christmas card ideas and some tips for creating your spinner cards. For the latest card making ideas, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on that little bell so you will be notified each time I upload a new video. Okay, so first let's talk about the supplies you will need to create these cards. So to create these cards, I am using a variety of products from the Wrapped in Plaid product suite from Stampin Up. So of course I'm working with some cardstock colors which coordinate with the plaid pattern papers that I'll be using. So for these cards, I'm using some white, cherry cobbler, and shaded spruce cardstock. Now I am also using 2 of the beautiful pattern papers from the Wrapped in Plaid Designer Series paper pack. I am also using the Perfectly Plaid stamp set. And to create the little spinning Christmas trees, I am using the Pine Tree Punch, which coordinates with this stamp set. And the ink colors I'm using, cherry cobbler and shaded spruce. Now, in order to create the little spinning trees, we need to create some windows on our card. So I'm going to be using 2 different dies from the Stitched Shapes die set, but you can use any shapes, any die set that you have to create the little windows on the card. Now you'll also need some very thin thread so that we can attach our little spinning Christmas trees to this. So I am using the gold metallic thread for this particular project. And the last thing I'm using, just some metallic pearls to embellish the card. Okay, that's it. I think we're ready to get started. Now there are 2 different ways that you can create the spinning tree. First, you can use the wrap and tie method. And second, you can use the gluing in place method. Now these don't sound like very technical terms, and they're not. But I will show you how to do both. So first let's start by talking about the wrap and tie method. So the first way to create the spinner section is to wrap and tie the thread around the window section on the cardstock. So to use this method, start by cutting a piece of gold metallic thread that is at least 7 inches long. You want to have some extra so that you can wrap and tie it to the cardstock. So we will be using the window opening and the edges of the cardstock as our anchor points. So first wrap the thread around the green cardstock between the top of the card and the window opening. Tie it into a double knot and then trim off a little bit of the excess. Now take the other end of the metallic thread and wrap it around the bottom part of the green cardstock between the edge of the card and that window opening. Now be sure to pull it tight so that the thread that is visible in that window section is tight. Then go ahead and double knot the thread and trim off some of the excess. Now for a little extra holding power, you can add a few pieces of double-sided tape to the thread above and below that window. So in order to use this method, you will be adding a few layers of pattern paper and cardstock to your card, which can be used to cover up the areas where we are going to wrap and tie that thread. So for example, on this card, the plaid pattern paper covers up all of the metallic thread except for the thread that is exposed in the window section of the card, which is the way we want it. Next, you are going to punch out 2 tree shapes from a piece of green cardstock. Okay, now add some liquid glue to the back of one of the green tree shapes. Lay the tree with that adhesive, with that glue in front of you. Hold the green cardstock, now that big green cardstock piece, hold that over the tree so that the thread in the window section is in the center of the tree. Now take the other tree shape and adhere it over the top of this one. So you are basically sandwiching the thread in between the two tree shapes to create the spinner section of the card. So there you go, we've just created our first spinning tree. Now don't worry about all of the adhesive and the mess that you see here. This will all be covered up once we decorate the card front with our patterned paper. So for now, let's just set this piece aside so that I can show you the second way to create a spinner card. So this is the gluing in place method. I don't know what else to call it, so we'll just call it that. So the second way to create the spinning tree is to cut a piece of gold metallic thread and adhere it above and below the window. Now I recommend using this particular method when your card design is such that you will not be using multiple layers of pattern paper or cardstock. So therefore you're not able to wrap and tie the thread because you will see it. So use a strong adhesive like tear and tape to adhere the thread to the cardstock. Now I typically add one piece of double-sided tape to hold the thread in place. Then I peel off the backing on that double-sided tape and then I fold the excess thread down over the top of that first piece and then I add another. So it's almost like wrapping, but we're going to be wrapping it within the adhesive pieces instead of wrapping it around the card. Now I also add a bit of liquid glue just to give it a little extra holding power. Now be sure to pull the thread tight across the middle of the window section as you are adhering it. Now once you have the thread secured, punch out 2 Christmas trees. Now this time we're going to use a piece of plaid pattern paper to do that. So basically the pine tree punch is asymmetrical. So you need to create a mirror image of the tree in order to adhere them together. So to do that, simply punch out one of the tree shapes from this side of your pattern paper, then flip over your pattern paper and punch out the second tree. So that way when you glue them together, the edges will line up and you will have the same pattern visible on each side of the tree. Okay, now add some liquid glue to the back of one of the tree shapes, and again lay the tree with the adhesive in front of you. Hold the green cardstock piece over the tree so that that thread is in the window section right in the center of the tree. Now take the other tree shape and adhere it over the top of this one. And again, you're basically sandwiching the thread in between the two tree shapes to create the spinner. All right, there you go. We now have created our second spinning tree. Okay, now let's add these trees to our cards. Okay, this first card features a pretty simple card design with a little Christmas tree spinner section on the upper part of the card. So for this card, we will be using the spinning tree that we created with the wrap and tie method. So we're going to start with a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock cut at 5.5 by 8.5 inches. Score the 8.5 inch side at 4 1/4 inches to create the base of the card. Next, we're going to create all of the accent pieces for the card. So start by cutting a 3 by 5.5 inch piece of one of the plaid pattern papers. Next, cut a 3 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of shaded spruce cardstock. This will be used as a mat behind the plaid pattern paper. It will also hold our spinning Christmas tree in place. Now grab your embossing machine and the stitched shaped circle die that measures approximately 2 3/8 inches in diameter. Open up the cherry cobbler card base and lay it on the platform. Layer the plaid paper and shaded spruce cardstock together and lay it on top of the cherry cobbler card front. Now you want this piece to be running from edge to edge right down the middle of the card front. So make sure you position it that way on your die cutting platform. We will be cutting all of the layers at once to ensure that the circle shapes line up correctly on all 3 pieces. So lay the circle die on top of all 3 pieces and run it through the embossing machine. Okay, so you will notice that the circle is cut out of the first 2 layers. So the circle's cut out of the plaid pattern paper and the shaded spruce cardstock, but it's not cut out of the card front. Now, I knew that would happen because the dies typically can only cut through 2 pieces of paper at one time. So this was purposeful. So although the die does not cut all the way through, it leaves a nice template for me so that I know exactly where to place that circle shape so that I can cut that out of the front of the card. So go ahead and line up the circle die with the shape on the cherry cobbler card front, run it through the embossing machine to cut out the piece, and then we should be set to put together our card. Now be sure to save the circle shapes because at the end of this video I will share a few more card ideas with you that feature these leftover shapes. Okay, so here's what the pieces will look like when we adhere everything together. So as you can see, all of the windows in all three of these pieces line up perfectly. All right, so now that we have all of the windows cut out on our papers, let's assemble the spinning Christmas tree. Now, since I already showed you how to create the tree, we can go ahead and finish decorating this card with one of the trees that we already created. So adhere the plaid pattern paper piece to the green cardstock. Now remember, we already cut out the circle shape from this piece, so it's just a matter of lining it up with the circle window on the green cardstock. Once you have that piece in place, go ahead and adhere the entire piece of green cardstock to the middle of the cherry cobbler card front by lining up the circular window sections. Okay, stamp a sentiment on a 1/2 inch by 3 inch piece of white cardstock and adhere it to the card front. Then for the finishing touch, simply embellish the card with a few metallic pearls. All right, so now as you can see, the tree blends in a little bit too much with the red cardstock in the background. So to brighten it up a little bit, I simply cut a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock and adhered it to the inside of the card. Now that white cardstock will be visible on the front of the card, which will brighten up the tree and accent it nicely. Okay, that's it. We have just created a super fun little Christmas tree spinner card. It spins or just kind of free floats in that circular window opening. Pretty cool, right? And hopefully you thought it was pretty easy. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this card. So be sure to leave me a comment below. All right, the second card features another Christmas tree spinner section. For this card, we will use the gluing in place method because we are really unable to wrap and tie the thread around the card like we did with the first one, simply because of the design of the card. So start with a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock cut at 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 inches. Score the 8 1/2 inch side at 4 1/4 inches to create the base of the card. We are going to create all of the accent pieces for the card first. So start by cutting 2 pieces of one of the plaid pattern papers at 1 by 4 1/4 inches. Next, cut a 3 by 4 1/4 inch piece of the Shaded Spruce Cardstock. This is the piece that will be used in the center of the card that will hold our spinning Christmas tree in place. Now grab your embossing machine, open up the cherry cobbler cardstock base and lay it on the platform. Lay the Shaded Spruce Cardstock piece on top of that cherry cobbler card front. So you want this piece to be running from the score line or that fold in the center of the card to the bottom edge of the card, directly down the middle. We will be cutting all of the layers at once to ensure that the square shapes line up, much like we did with the circle shapes. So lay the square die on the top of the green cardstock and run it through the embossing machine. Now the square die will cut out both pieces of cardstock at the same time. So here's what the pieces will look like when we adhere everything together. So again, you can see the windows on these 2 pieces line up perfectly. So for this card, we are going to be using the 3 by 4 1/4 inch piece of Shaded Spruce Cardstock that we created the little plaid spinning Christmas tree with. Now you can see that the reason I didn't use the wrap and tie method with this is because I only have 2 layers. I have the card base and I have this green piece of cardstock. So if I had used the wrap and tie method, you would see the thread across the front of this green piece of cardstock. So before we add the middle section of the card, let's go ahead and add each of the 1 and 4 1/4 inch pieces of pattern paper to our card front. So simply adhere each piece approximately a 1/2 inch from each side of the cherry cobbler card front. Once you have those pieces in place, you can go ahead and adhere the entire piece of green cardstock with our spinning Christmas tree in it to the middle of the cherry cobbler card front. Then go ahead and stamp a sentiment on a 1/2 by 3-inch piece of white cardstock and adhere it to the card front. Then for the finishing touch, simply embellish the card with a few metallic pearls. And again, we are going to add a 5 1/4 by 4-inch piece of white cardstock to the inside of the card so that it highlights or accents our little spinning Christmas tree. Okay, that's it. We have another super fun little Christmas tree spinner card. Okay, the last couple of card ideas I want to share with you feature the little shapes that were left over from cutting out the windows in our spinner cards. Now we ended up with several square and circle shapes. So although I'm only featuring 2 card designs here, you can really create a total of 5 cards with the shapes that were left over. Okay, so this first card idea features the plaid pattern circle as the focal point of the card. Now this card design might look a little familiar as it's very similar to one of the cards that I shared with you last week. Now I didn't make a spinning Christmas tree this time. I simply used one of the tree shapes and popped it up on the card with a few dimensionals. And I also just added a little bit of decoration to the inside of the card. And the second card idea is almost identical to the spinning Christmas tree card. Now the only difference is that I didn't create a spinning Christmas tree. Instead, I just again popped up a little Christmas tree on the leftover square. And the decorations are pretty much the same. I just added, the 1-inch wide pieces of patterned paper on the front. And then I just added a little white section in the middle here. And again, I did a little bit of decorating on the inside of the card. So I thought I would just share some quick and simple card ideas and some fun ways that you can use those leftover shapes. All right, so there you go. Now you have 4 fun Christmas tree card ideas to play with. 2 Christmas spinner cards and 2 cards that you can create with the leftover scraps from making those spinner cards. And if you enjoyed these cards, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have fun getting creative, take care, and I'll see you soon.